What is going on, everybody? Xtimus here. So today I'm going to be showing you a new series of mine, and this is going to be theory crafting in Diablo 2. So I have around 100 to 150 different theory crafted builds for Diablo 2 that I've created over the years, and I'm just getting ready for 2.4, and then we're going to be releasing a bunch of them. So this is one of my first builds, and this is a Zeal Assassin, and this is definitely one of the most fun and unique builds that I've ever played. We're going to be doing a ton of Zeal Assassin damage mixed with traps and also Death Sentry. So this is a really interesting build. It's very similar to the Whirlwind Assassin, and it's just almost the same exact thing. It's just it's going to be using Zeal instead of Whirlwind. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys have any suggestions or feedback, and let's just get into the video. Alright, so starting off, the main reason why I wanted to make this build is because the rune word Passion actually has Zeal on it. I've really tested a lot of different classes before trying to make Zeal a viable build with a lot of different classes. The Assassin is actually really good, and it's just a whole lot of fun to play, and this whole build just evolves around Passion and making sure that you have Zeal right there. So we're just going to go over the items real quick, and just to let you guys know, this build is just all about melee damage. So it's trying to allow the assassin to do the most amount of melee damage that she can do using Zeal. Or we're actually using a Passion Berserker Axe. The reason why we're using a Berserker Axe is because it has so much more damage on there. You can use a Phase Blade or something like that. It's really not going to do as much damage. The only problem with this Berserker Axe is that you're going to be repairing the axe all the time. So the durability is only 26, and this is something I recommend that Blizzard does. I hope they upgrade or take a good look at this sometime and upgrade the durability on melee weapons, because there's just so many melee weapons in the game that just run out of durability really quick, and it's just not a lot of fun having to go to merchants all the time to repair your weapon. So taking a good look at it, it's a really good rune word. It only requires a Lem rune at the highest, 210% enhanced damage, bonus to attack rating, some damage against undead. You can also use Berserk. I haven't tried to make any builds with a Berserk skill before, but the main reason is for that Zeal. And many of you actually like my Zeal sorceress, and she uses a Passion Phase Blade, so it's a really powerful build, and it's really good in PvP as well. This is a really expensive character right here. We're using a Dream Helmet and a Dream Shield, and this is where we're getting most of the melee damage right here. It's from that Holy Shock aura, and this really ups our damage a lot. It's a really expensive build, but this is just theory crafting, and I really like to mess around with the game and try different builds and just try new things. It's a whole lot of fun, and I suggest some of you guys try it out sometime as well. If you want to test out this build, I also have a link in the description below. You just have to join my Discord, and that's the only way I know how to give the download out to people, and it's really easy. You just put it in your save file and you can test this build out for yourself. So we're using Dream Helmet and Dream Shield, and we have a Highlords Wrath. This is just one of the most popular melee amulets out there. And then we're using Fortitude. So this is just really overpowered as well, 300% enhanced damage. Almost all melee characters use Fortitude, so it's just really good. And we're using Goreriders, and we're really lacking some Crushing Blow here, but we really don't need Crushing Blow or Deadly Strike that much. It's not that type of melee build. We're mainly doing elemental damage from Dream, and we're also having a Mercenary that has Infinity, so we're just going to be doing even more elemental damage right there. It's not like a normal melee build where you're using Crushing Blow and everything, kind of like my Frenzy Barbarian or a Zeal Barbarian. It's not like that at all, but in a way it's kind of similar. And moving on here, we have the Ravenfrost. As I said before, one of the most important almost 9 out of 10 melee characters are going to use a Ravenfrost, so you always use a Ravenfrost on the melee build unless you have a Cham rune, and a lot of times you're just not going to go and waste a Cham rune. You just have to have Cannot Be Frozen on any melee character, and that's one of the biggest tips that I can give to anyone that plays any physical or melee character. And we're using Dungos. The belt really doesn't matter that much. It's just a really good belt, and all around it's just absolutely amazing, one of the best in the game. And we're using Bul Kathos. We're going to be doing a ton of damage here, and not only that, we're going to be doing a lot of attacks, so that life leech, life stolen per hit right there is really going to work out really well, and we're going to get a lot of life back from that. And we're going to be using Drax, so the life tap is really going to up our survivability a ton, and that 10% life stolen per hit is really going to do well. And whenever you have Drax on, you're just never going to die. Any melee character that has Drax, the life tap is just so overpowered, you will probably just never die. So if you're ever playing a melee character and you don't want to die, just wear Drax. They're all around amazing. And our inventory, we just have an Anni, a torch, and just some fire charms right here. This is one thing I wanted to mention, is that these elemental charms right here are actually really good. Like this one right here that does fire damage. Any of these charms that do fire damage, lightning damage, anything like that are really good for elemental builds such as this one that use infinity, so like a Zeal sorceress. So I really suggest that you guys try to keep small charms, large charms like that, because they're just really overpowered, and almost people never pick up large charms. And you can see this one right here, 35 to life, and it does a ton of fire damage. So just make sure you start picking up large charms because they're actually really good. And then on Switch we have Call to Arms and a Spirit Shield right there just for the battle orders. And as far as the Mercenary, we're using Infinity. We need the Conviction Aura so we can get more elemental damage and lower the resist of all the monsters in the area. We all know Infinity is just super powerful. It makes any character just be able to clear anything in the game very quickly. It's probably the most overpowered rune word in the game. And he also has a Shaft Stop on and Vampire Gaze. This is one thing, this isn't one opinion from me, is that for a Mercenary, the helmet and the armor really don't matter that much. It's all about the weapon, and you really don't need to go out of your way to get a Fortitude or anything crazy expensive. Just get something that's really good, like Shaft Stop, Vampire Gaze, Treachery, anything like that. These are just things in the game you really don't have to worry about too much, and sometimes people are perfectionists and they just want to get the perfect and best items in the game, which is understandable, but also at the same time it's not really necessary to get everything perfect all the time. So, and then we're going to go over here to the skills, and this is also on patch 2.4 right now. We have nothing in martial arts, and then we want to put 20 points into burst of speed. So this is really amazing that we're hitting such a very fast attack speed right here with the Berserker Axe, and I believe that we're hitting the fastest possible attack speed for this build right here for this class. And you want to make sure you put 20 points in the burst of speed, and when we start playing the build, you're really going to see how fast she can attack. Even though her damage isn't that high, she is just doing a ton of attacks. So burst of speed, 20 points into there, and I really like it because you get to run around really fast, increases your run walk speed by 63%, so that's also really cool, and it's just one of the things that I really like about assassins. 20 points into venom. As I said before, this is all about trying to get the maximum amount of physical damage from this character, and I really wanted to put 20 points into Venom because that's the main purpose of this build. Obviously, I could put more points into traps and make the build more effective, but what I was trying to do is make the most effective melee character for a Zeal assassin, so that's why we put 20 points into Venom. And another thing that you could probably know is you could do like a pre-buff thing, and that's really not necessary. I messed around with a few things and it's only like a few hundred more damage. And then we just have 1 point into all of these skills right here. 1 point into Mind Blast. This is really good just to stun a group of enemies sometimes. And we want to put 1 point into Shadow Warrior and Shadow Master. It's really up to you which one you want to use. I really don't think that it matters that much, but we will be using one of them. And for traps, we want to make sure that we put 20 points into Shockweb and 20 points into Lightning Sentry, and then we put the rest of our points into Charged Bolt Sentry, and I believe we only put 1 point into Death Traps. And because 2.4 got changed around a little bit, Death Sentry used to have a synergy with Lightning Sentry. They used to be linked together and now they're not, and I just put 1 point into Death Sentry because I really wanted to max out my lightning damage some more there. And there's just other ways that you could do it, but I just wanted to put 1 point into Death Sentry. I think that's enough, and we're really just trying to get that corpse explosion going right there. And we're going to be doing a mix of lightning damage and melee damage, but as I said before, I'm really just going to show you some really nice gameplay of just melee damage, just so we can see that, and later on we'll combine both of them together. And this build is very similar to a Whirlwind Assassin. I've done a build on that before. It's one of the most popular builds out there for an assassin. And the thing that I like about this build is that you use Zeal. So if you've ever played a Whirlwind Trap Assassin, this is basically the same exact thing. You're just using Zeal instead of Whirlwind. And I really like using Zeal a lot, and this is a really fun build, and I just love it so much. And I'm just going to show you guys how powerful this build really is. Alright, so we're going to use Battle Orders, we're going to use Venom, which is going to give us about 700 damage. Then we're just going to use the Shadow Warrior, and then turn on Burst of Speed. And if we ever want to use Mind Blast, we can. I never use Mind Blast, I think we'll be fine. So, and then just a quick rundown on how to play the build. On the left we have Zeal, F1, I have Lightning Sentry, F2 we have Death Sentry, and then F3 we have Shockweb. And then F4 we have Cloak of Shadows, which I don't think Cloak of Shadows is even going to do anything because you get negative enemy defense when you're using Conviction. So I really don't take the build too seriously. I really just go around in melee. Obviously we could use a lot of traps and throw around shockwebs and do all that. I'm just going to show you guys how powerful just the melee part of the build is. So, and as I said before, we're on players 8 right now, and it doesn't look like we're going to do a whole lot of damage right here. We're only at 1,200 to about 3,800 Zeal damage, but you're really going to see how well the build works out and how well the melee damage is. And it's probably because of a little bit of Crushing Blow, and then also the lightning damage coming from both of the dreams combined with the Conviction. And it's really going to show like how all those things come together to really make the damage really high. So let's go do this. So we're taking out Elder Edge pretty quick right here. Took some time there, but I mean it's pretty difficult. I mean it's players 8, you know. Go take out this elite guy real quick. So, and as you can see, just right there, the melee damage is just absolutely insane. And you could just imagine how much more damage and how powerful this build is going to be when you're throwing around shock webs and death sentry. So you're doing a ton of melee damage, you're doing corpse explosion, a bunch of lightning damage, and you can also throw around shock webs. So it's just extremely overpowered, and we are lacking some mana leech right there, so I'm gonna go to town and just get some mana pots and just continue to play the build and just mess around. And I just had a ton of fun making this build, and I love theory crafting, and whenever I come up with builds like this I get super excited, and it's just a whole bunch of fun to play as well. So now that you see that the melee damage is decent, we're just going to throw up some traps. And that's really when the build is super effective, when you're throwing around traps and dust sentries and melee. And as I said before, we're on players 8 here, so you can see, as I said before, the clearing speed with just melee is just really nice. Crazy attack speed. And it's just one of those builds that's just so much fun to play. I mean, there's so many different things you could do. You could go around and use Zeal, use your traps, use Shockweb. You know, it's not like a Hammered In where you're just going around and throwing up hammers, you know, where it's super boring. That's why I love melee builds. You just really get into the action there. One thing I don't like about Dream, though, is that it usually casts a Confuse. So then they're always running away. You can notice I'm like chasing the monsters around a lot. Then also that takes away from life tap. We'll just go ahead and start using some traps now. All right, well, that's about it for the Zeal Assassin theory crafting build guide. So I'm really going to be putting out a lot more theory crafting builds. I have around 100 theory crafting Diablo 2 builds that I really want to show everybody. And once patch 2.4 comes out, you're really going to see a bunch of those builds coming from me. And just let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this build, if you think there's any improvements or just your overall feedback on it. I would really appreciate it. I love all of you so much, and just make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up with Diablo 2 content. And I'm really happy to be back making videos for everybody again, and I hope everybody has a wonderful morning, and take care. Have a great day.